There are people who are sold out to opposing speaking in tongues. It is sad, but those people exist. From the surface, they may look like normal people who care for sanity in the house of God, but in reality, they are children of the devil. God sees us differently than how we see ourselves. Jesus called the Pharisees children of the devil because they spoke lies, the native language of the devil. The Pharisees rejected Jesus, and such an act can only be inspired by the devil. Jesus also called Judas Iscariot a devil in John 6 verse 70. "Have I not chosen you the 12? Yet one of you is a devil," said Jesus. When God speaks, he speaks with finality. Judas had not yet been filled with Satan, but Jesus could already see the state of his heart. The Bible also tells us of Esau, whom God hated even before he was born. Esau loved earthly pleasures at the expense of God. He sold his birthright, which was a gift given to him by God. Judas sold Jesus, who was a gift from God to us. People who oppose speaking in tongues are also opposing a gift from God. Based on that, they are not any different from Judas and Esau. God hates them. Opposing speaking in tongues from the heart. There are genuine believers who are skeptical about speaking in tongues. Such believers have fear, but their hearts are not against speaking in tongues. For them, all they need to do is receive love from God to overshadow the fear they have, and the resistance to the gift of speaking in tongues will vanish. In the real world, it is normal for people to be scared of receiving gifts from people they don't have a relationship with. The same happens in the spirit. People who don't have a solid relationship with God will be skeptical about receiving gifts from God. God's gift to them will feel like a trap. These type of believers need to outgrow their fear and receive God's gifts. But then there are people who are not believers, and they oppose speaking in tongues from the heart. They may not be very vocal about it, but their actions directly discourage others from speaking in tongues. These are the types of people who say speaking in tongues is of the devil. Some of them use science to deceive people that speaking in tongues is just a natural phenomenon with no spiritual significance. Some of these people attend lukewarm churches, while others don't attend church at all. A good number of them do not even believe in the existence of God. These are the Esau and Judas of speaking in tongues. Esau's birthright was a gift from God, but he sold it. The treasurer position that Judas was given was a gift from God, but he used it to sell Jesus for 30 silver coins. The people I'm talking about are in the business of betraying speaking in tongues, which is a gift of the Holy Spirit. The devil has convinced them to do his bidding, and in their blindness they go along. Opposers of speaking in tongues in churches. When someone who doesn't believe in God opposes speaking in tongues, it is easy to understand. But when someone in church opposes speaking in tongues, it raises many questions. Opposers of speaking in tongues in church are the most dangerous. They are the perfect definition of wolves in sheep's skin. They deceive many with their involvement in church activities, but God can never be fooled. Jesus was never fooled by the Pharisees' claim that they were children of Abraham. Most Jews never saw anything wrong with the Pharisees, but Jesus would have none of it. I'm sure many Jews were surprised by the strong stand Jesus had against the Pharisees. The Pharisees were the spiritual leaders of that time, but they were devils. Physically they appeared as servants of God, but spiritually they stood in the way of people receiving salvation. They hid themselves in the law of Moses, but their hearts were sold out to hinder Jesus from saving the world. Those who oppose speaking in tongues are not any different. They will quote scriptures to justify their opposition to speaking in tongues, but their hearts have a darker agenda. The punishment of those who oppose speaking in tongues. People who oppose speaking in tongues can fool many, but God will never be fooled by their evil schemes. He has prepared severe punishment for them. Can someone fight against the gift of the Holy Spirit and go unpunished? Never. These people may succeed in frustrating believers who speak in tongues, but to God, they are nothing but mere flesh and blood. At the breath of the Almighty they will all perish, and their memory shall be wiped away from the face of the earth. Do not fight them, God has already prepared their destruction. When they oppose you, shrug them off and continue speaking in tongues. They will abuse you, but God will redeem you and make sure you see their destruction. Don't pray against them, rather pray that your faith in the gift of speaking in tongues may not fail. Provided you don't stop speaking in tongues, their agenda will fail. The Pharisees succeeded in getting Jesus crucified, but in the end, they were the losers. If they drive you out of their church, move to another church, but don't lose your faith. You will be rewarded for your passion for the gift of speaking in tongues. God knows those who oppose speaking in tongues. Just as God knew Esau would sell his birthright and Jesus knew Judas would betray him, the Holy Spirit knows those who will reject him. Because you are filled with the Holy Spirit, pray that you may discern these evil people. It is impossible to know these people unless the Holy Spirit reveals them to you. And when you know them, pray that the Holy Spirit may guide you on how to deal with them. It is a sensitive matter, and that is why you need the guidance of the Holy Spirit to handle it. Jacob had to run away from Esau. Jesus had to dodge the Pharisees. You may need to flee from those who oppose speaking in tongues. Whether they are in your family, your place of work, or your church, you need the guidance of the Holy Spirit to know what to do. But remember, it is not your work to fight them. If you try fighting them, you will lose. Soak yourself in tongues and wait for the salvation of the Lord. Until next time, peace. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel for more speaking in tongues videos. See you in the next one.